Good morning and welcome. Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason on this Tuesday. I hope it finds you well out there. Yeah, we had, the Valley of the Suns. I'll call it, it's our version of fog. We don't really get fog here in Phoenix. We get dust. I don't know. Is there a fire maybe? I don't know of one, but yeah. Boy, driving into work this morning, it's a little creepy. I'll be honest. I don't know if it's just blowing dust or like I said, hopefully not a fire. Hopefully it's just dust. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting drive in. It was like 117 degrees yesterday. That's hot. I don't care what kind of heat it is. Way too hot for my liking, but that's why everybody's getting out of town. It's summertime. It's vacation time. For those of you that are stuck with me, I feel bad for you. I do. But, hey, there could be worse things. Our toll-free number, 800-951-0592. The website at allamericangold.com. And I don't know what has happened. Well, actually, I guess that's not true. I do know what's happened. Gold breaking out again. These dips just won't last very long. The dollar is getting absolutely pummeled right now. Word broke yesterday that banks started borrowing from the Fed repo window, something we haven't seen in a very long time. Well, I guess, you know what? Not really. Right? Not really. I guess this is just how it works now, right? The Treasury openly buying $10 billion of debt a month. Yesterday alone, banks borrowed $11 billion to try to keep the rates down as we get to the big bill. Will it or will it not pass? It's going to be close. Because you got to remember, the Senate's done their thing. And, of course, they're going through all the drama and the theatrics. And then it's going to get back to the House. How many members are they going to lose? Remember, it barely snuck by the first time around. This one's gonna be even tighter. Yeah, it's gonna be really close. We'll see what ends up happening. Remember, the president wants it done by the 4th of July. Speaking of the 4th of July, we will be closed on Friday. So whatever you want to get done, get it done before then. The website's back up. We had it down for maintenance. That is now back up. So you'll be able to shop at allamericangold.com 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But we will be closed Friday for the 4th of July. Be safe. Have a great time. And a lot of people probably like, hey, I'm going to get out of here a little early. But here's the thing, guys. It's getting big. The feud with Elon Musk and the president heating back up again. Now the president threatening, hey, maybe we gotta give Elon the boot. Yeah, I'll just say this: Tesla's not looking so good. We'll see. I think there's going to be a big miss on Tesla deliveries, but all eyes are focused in on the big, beautiful bill. Jay Powell out today with a very interesting comment, essentially blaming Donald Trump for the reason why the Fed has yet to cut rates. He was at a panel, some kind of economic panel. The question was asked, if the Fed would have lowered rates again this year had Trump not announced his controversial, now again, I didn't write this, controversial plan to impose higher levies on imported goods. Jay Powell's answer, I think that's right. In effect, we went on a hold when we saw the size of the tariffs, and essentially all inflation forecasts for the United States went up materially as a consequence of those tariffs. By the way, he's in Spain making these comments. So maybe they got the whole ocean between them, so maybe he felt like he was safe. But again, the dollar having the worst, 1973, the worst start, the worst 6 months ever for the U.S. Now, part of that right now, that does help Wall Street. It's weakened without the Fed's funds rate weakening. It is interesting that we have the Treasury buying $10 billion a month, and then this morning news broke that yesterday banks had to borrow $11 billion. There was 2 auctions yesterday, a morning and an afternoon. $5 billion in the morning, $6 billion in the afternoon. Again, just showing the stress of that bond market. And again, after the big beautiful bill, they're going to raise the debt ceiling. Who's going to buy it all? It's going to be fun. Everybody, hang on. Got a great show for you. 800-951-0592, Patriot Radio News Hour on this Tuesday. Let's take a quick look here. So we got a short week. We're going to get jobs this week. So everybody hang on. Right now, the Dow up 280. The S&P is down 25. The NASDAQ down 254. I think a lot of that having to do with the green energy stuff. Looks like they're going to cut that funding earlier than expected. One of the big benefactors of that, obviously wind, solar, Tesla, some of these others. The 10-year note. Listen, the 10-year note got to like 419 or 418 yesterday, and then news kind of broke. Yeah, it did, but only because the Treasury and the banks were borrowing to try to keep it low. Didn't last. 426 on the 10-year note. We talked about the dollar today. It has been a bloodbath in the dollar this week. Crude oil's a little bit higher right now, but just hanging around, that 65, 66 level. Gold is up another 43 right now, just below 33.50. Yesterday, gold rallied all day yesterday. It was up when we were on, then we got off, it kept going up, and then in the afternoon it went up some more, closed above that 3,300 level, and is now sitting just below 33.50. All of it really the dollar. This is the story. Everybody coming to the conclusion now, okay, they think it's going to get done, right? The bill's going to, even if people are holding their nose, they're going to get enough votes to get it across the finish line. It's just an avalanche of debt. And again, I don't know why anyone thought any different. And then let's not forget, next week, it's the BRICS meeting. What will or will not Mexico do? We'll have to wait and see. And then will China actually get more aggressive in trying to globalize the renminbi? Those are going to be things that we are waiting for, on top of whatever happens with the jobs market. Silver's higher, above 36. Silver did really well. It did. I guess on Friday, kind of, all the days are like, oh, okay, well, gold's going, that's it for gold. And, silver didn't hold 36, blah, blah, window dressing. It's not going anywhere. And why do I say, well, and I shouldn't say that. It's going higher. Why? Well, look at what Jay Powell just said. Well, if it wasn't for the tariffs, we probably would have already cut rates. Why? Why? You shouldn't. But they have to. And this is really what's coming. Look at what happened yesterday. Banks had to borrow from the Fed. What's that called? Right? I mean, what do you want to call it? I mean, they'll call it, it was a reverse repo buying from the basically the Fed lent the bank money. Fed doesn't have any money. Matter of fact, the Fed has a balance of negative $200 billion. I'm not kidding. They don't have the money. They just make it up. Yeah. Quantitative easing will be back, folks. Don't you worry. They can't allow this to go on for a lot longer. I would say within 30 days of this bill passing, we will have a rate cut. I won't be surprised if it's 50 basis points. And I also wouldn't be surprised. At best case, they'll end with little bit of quantitative tightening they're still doing. And it wouldn't shock me if they announced a return to quantitative easing. I don't know that they'll do that at the next meeting, but probably the meeting after, right? Jason, when we're sitting there looking at what has to happen, forget about how much the bill's going to cost. Okay, let's just set that aside for a minute, because, you hear the debate, they've got it wrong. We're going to grow better and, 5% GDP, ridiculous stuff. But forget about that. The first thing that has to be done after they've raised the debt ceiling is to pay back all the money that the Treasury took from other places. We've been on emergency measures now. What? Was it February? It was February. March, April, May, June, right? We're in July. Best case scenario, over the next, say, 60 days, on top of all the regular borrowing, the Treasury needs to borrow another $1 trillion just to get, they didn't pay any pensions, right? They didn't pay any of the interest. They didn't do a lot of, all the little things that they do. That alone, Jason, I think is going to overwhelm the market. I think this is probably why you're hearing Jay Powell today. Well, we just didn't do it because of the tariffs. And essentially now saying, well, now we think the tariffs, we've seen the effects. It isn't that bad. Now we'll go ahead and cut rates. But that's really not what's happening. No, Jay.
Okay, there we are.
There you go. Hey, when you take a day off, Jason, that's what happens. Jack's got to get retrained.
Yeah, I was just going to go back for a moment. We were talking silver. In April it was $29.30, and in May it was May 30th. The very end of starting in June, $33. And now it's here at 36.5 or 36.25, whatever it's at. I would say silver losing a little bit of ground here or there. It's not down to $29, Joe. It seems like silver is really moving hard right now, and I suspect gold will start moving along with it again. So it's once again, stack it up. You got to stack it up. Silver's cheaper. I mean, if you guys are complaining about the price of gold, well, if you can't get the $30,500 for an ounce of gold, you probably can get the $40 for an ounce of silver. And I would suggest getting as many as you can. That's why it's good to have both, right, Joe? Silver's a little more affordable. If we have to price everything in dollars. Well, it takes less dollars to get silver. It doesn't matter what metals you stack, as long as they keep going up as a percentage versus the dollar. You're going to be sitting on a much more strong savings with a pile of metal, Joe, instead of a pile of paper digits in your account.
I'll say this. This is going to be interesting because the dollar falling like this, it makes things more expensive. We had ISM out today. That's your manufacturing and service sectors. Guess what they said? Yeah, things got a little better. Not much, a little bit. Manufacturing still negative. Service sector, just above it. But they're like, yeah, but everything's still costing more. Still costing more. So now these dollars that continue to weaken here actually makes things cost more. Right? And this is kind of the thing when we sit there and tell you, hey, inflation's not done. But they don't care. They're not here to fight inflation any longer. That's not what they're doing. What they're doing is trying to manage the deficit and liquidity problems that are persisting in the bond market. And I think once this bill passes, so right now there could be a fracture in the GOP due to the changes from the Senate. So remember, the House's piece, what did they say? $2.4 trillion added. Well, the Senate came in and said, well, gosh, we don't like this, and we don't like that, and change this, change that. Now they're saying $3.3 trillion. And now some of the House Republicans that voted for the bill are starting to push back. Right now there are 8 holdouts that are either opposed or undecided. Right now they only can afford to lose 3. Okay, now we know Thomas Massey is a no. Right? That we know. I got to remember, this isn't the Senate anymore. This is back in the House. And we know that in the House, Rand Paul voted no. Tom Tillis voted no. Now all of a sudden, Susan Collins is now leaning to no due to some of the changes. That would be all that they could afford to lose in the Senate, because then J.D. Vance could break the tie. The other one they're worried about, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska. She would be another one that's been kind of on the fence. I think they're okay in the Senate. That's just my opinion. Whether it's Murkowski or if they can get Susan Collins on board, I think they're going to be okay in the Senate. The question then, Jason, will be what will happen in the House. Now, this is just breaking. Republican from Oklahoma, Mullen, says they have the votes to pass it in the Senate. Okay, in the Senate. Yeah, okay. Which I thought they did. But the big problem now, Jason, Medicaid cuts. Listen, here's what's going to go on with Medicaid. Just to give you the simple answer. Rural areas are going to get hit hard. That's just how it's going to be. You're probably going to lose, if you have hospitals that are kind of teetering on the brink, they're probably going to go under. So those rural areas, that's going to be a problem. And that's where some of these especially in the House, right, those smaller districts, that's where you're going to get some pushback. Cuts to SNAP. Okay, what's SNAP? Food stamps. That's another big problem, right? Because let's face it, that's not a very popular thing, especially when I know a lot of people, and I used to be this guy. This was me. Yeah, it's a bunch of people that don't want to work on food stamps. It's actually not true. There is some. Don't get me wrong. There is some. But the vast majority are just the working poor. So that's going to be a tough one. And then the debt ceiling, instead of $4 trillion, they've gone to $5 trillion. I think that's a great move, by the way. Because here is the problem with $4 trillion. We would be right here again at the end of next year. We would be. So with that extra trillion, I think that we won't have to worry about the debt ceiling until early 2027. I hope. But that's another one that has some of the Republican House of Representative measures on the fence. So we'll continue to watch. Obviously, the SALT deductions, right? The Senate kind of drew that back a little. That's another one that may get one or two guys to vote the wrong way. Overall, though, ready for this? I think it gets done. I do. 800-951-0592. Today's special $20 gold piece. You know, we ran AUs last week. Remember those? God, $33.95. Those are actually on their way. They'll be here towards the end of the week. $33.95. I got gold at $33.50 almost right now. Yesterday, Mint State 63s. We're at 34 and a quarter. Of course, gold continues to rally. Today, we've got our circulated $20 Liberties and Saints. You pick them. I'm going to do them $34.50, so just over $100 over spot for $20 gold pieces. Snatch them up at 800-951-0592. So, Jason, it looks like now the Senate has the vote, so this will go back to the House. I don't think the House was looking forward to it. Why do I get the feeling a lot of the guys in the House were hoping this would fail, so that way the Senate could get blamed? There's going to be some tough. There's going to have to be at least. My guess is they're probably going to need to get 2 or 3 members of that House to vote yes for something they don't want.
Yeah, well, what you say? They have 4 votes. They have 4 Republicans say no. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just think that there's a bag of money is passed around, and late Thursday before the holiday, they'll get it passed. That's how it seems to me. They'll
have to do something a little later. Okay, where you do it here, we'll pay you back on the next one, right? We'll pay you back on the next one. Of course, that's going to be. Listen, this is not the budget. I want to make that clear. That comes next, right? That's when, are they going to here's the beautiful thing. I'll give Trump a lot of credit. They're very smart in this regard. Most of the cuts in this bill come after he's out of office. So the question's going to be, how much growth are we going to get versus the amount of spending it's going to cost? And Jason, I wish people would understand. Listen, it always ends up the same, right? We're going to get some growth out of this, I promise. It won't last. And what we've seen about the growth, it tends to be shorter and shorter and shorter. When all of a sudden right? And of course, they'll cheerlead. Oh, look, oh my gosh, GDP. And of course, now, here's the best part. GDP was negative 0.5% in the first quarter. The second quarter's over. We don't know the numbers yet, but it's over. By all accounts, it's not going to be a great number, right? By all accounts. I think it's going to be positive, but it's not going to be some outrageous number. So they'll have a very low starting point, is what I'm getting at, right? They'll have a starting point where maybe, well, gosh, if you the first 6 months GDP averaged, 0.5% or 0.75%, something pretty low. And so if the second half of the year, the GDP goes to 2%, Jason, they're going to take a big win. Yeah. Right? But that's not going to be enough. And the problem is, how long will it last?
Yeah, it seems, well, you never know. Maybe they won't pass this thing and we'll just get to the government shutdown part. we'll get that.
You know what? That's funny. What would happen if they didn't? I mean, we still have time. Here's the thing. They actually don't have to this weekend. They don't. From what I understand, they can go all the way to the middle of August. And then my guess is they could probably go another week or two, right? They'll push come to shove. They still have time. But it would be interesting. I don't know. How would the market react if it didn't pass? My guess is that it wouldn't be good. That'd be my guess, right? They are very much, and again, I don't blame them. I would be the same way. Listen, if I'm a Wall Street investor, right, I want the big, beautiful bill. Why? Well, let's see. It extends tax cuts, right? So companies don't have to pay more taxes, which was going to happen. Now they don't. They're speeding up depreciation. What does that mean? That means any company buying stuff can write it off faster, right? Instead of writing it off over 5 years, hey, we can write it off over 3 years, right? Companies like that. And then the no tax on tips and overtime, that'll have some effect. It will. The problem with that part is that's usually at the lower end. And it'll be interesting. What do they do with the extra money? Are they going to save it? Or are they going to spend it? Are they going to pay down debt or spend? We don't know which, right? For some people, it'll probably allow them to maybe catch up on some bills. For a lot of them, they may spend it. I don't know. The more they spend it, the better. And it's kind of funny, right? Hey, they don't actually want them to save it. We'll see. But outside of that, that's really it. There's not a huge, big. It would be different if the corporate taxes and everything were being lowered. All as they're doing is extending where they're already at. So I don't know that we're going to get as much out of this as some people think. And then the cuts to green energy, what effect is that going to have? We'll watch Tesla, the solar companies, the wind, right? How much of that will be a negative? Those are things we won't know. But are we going to get 5% GDP? No. Do we need 5% GDP? Pretty close. That's the problem. Probably not, but it's got to be a really big number. I don't think we're going to get it. We'll be back. 800-951-0592. Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason here on this Tuesday. $20 gold pieces. $34.50. We've had gold as high as like $33.58 already today. By the way, 3,400 back on the clock. Right? Remember, we got above it for a day. We couldn't hold it the last time. course, silver, 37. And really, silver now probably 37.75 because I think that's what it got intraday the last go round. But Donald Trump and Elon Musk back at it today. A reporter asking Trump, are you going to deport Elon Musk? Right? This is like pro wrestling, right? Forget about what's real. Forget about the fact that everybody knows that this isn't going to work, but it will buy us some time, right? A year, maybe two, right? Because, well, we're spending, right? Look at COVID, right? So if you spend enough, the problem is we are now going to spend more than we did during COVID, and there's no emergency. Well, actually, there is. That's the problem. The emergency's in the bond market. Trump, we're going to have to take a look. We might have to put Doge on Elon. You know what Doge is. The monster that might have to go back and eat Elon. Wouldn't that be terrible? He gets a lot of subsidies. Elon Musk. So tempting to escalate this. So tempting. But I will refrain from now. And then he did say, how are we supposed to reach Mars if America goes de facto bankrupt? What good is Doge saving $160 billion? So Elon's now admitting, remember, he started at $2 trillion and then said $1 trillion. Well, he came in at 160. Almost all that is they fired people. I mean, let's be honest. By the way, I think that should give us a little bit of a good feeling that the government isn't as wasteful as we know. They may spend it wastefully, but they're not as bad at it. Like, you know, when you sit there and you talk about, okay, we spend $7 trillion, and if you took away the firings, right, maybe you saved $60 billion. That's not that bad.
There's no savings. They took those people, they put them in a different department, and then they're going to spend it on this next bill and then add it back in. There's no savings. I doubt that for a minute. The government doesn't fire anybody. They don't release people. This is why the school system's so horrendous, right? They have, I still remember those documentaries from the late 90s, early 2000s, where they showed the bad teachers in the districts. They sent them to this district place where they all sit around drinking coffee, and they shuffle all their bad guys to the next school, right? You know, you have a district of like 10 schools, and the really crappy teachers get, I guess, so-called fired. They go to the district building, sit there and drink coffee, just their appearance, I guess, to earn their money is to physically be somewhere. And then they shift them off to another school. I mean, back in the 80s, when I was in school, they were doing this, right? I never understood why the vice principal of Frederick, right? He was the Mr. Martinez, this just awful guy, right? And on the wall, so I'd end up in the principal. He was you didn't go to the principal's office. You went to the vice principal's office. And Mr. Martinez, I guess, took out his frustrations on the kids because you go into his office and there's this plaque. Frederick is one of it was the low of the low in the district. It was the drag of the district, right? And you look on the wall, it says, Mr. Martinez, principal of Longmont High School. And it's like, what did he do to end up vice principal of this school? Right, Joe? They don't fire you. I bet he did something. I mean, this is the 80s. He must have did something really awful. And they still didn't fire him. But he got a position to, I guess, to be as awful as he wanted to be on the awful school. So I think that's what the government's doing. I'm sure it looks like $168 billion in savings when you take away certain things. But like remember the Department of Education? Trump's supposed to get rid of the Department of Education. Well, that would be huge savings. Unless you just funnel everybody to these other departments, and then you just pay them there. The new budget, when you add money to the military budget, there's no cuts. The numbers are being cut off the old budget.
Here's what I love, though. Trump, in classic Trump fashion, he also told the reporters about the cuts in the mega bill. I don't want to go too crazy with cuts. I don't like cuts, right? There are certain things that have to be cut, which is good. But, yeah, I don't like cuts. So he just basically said what Jason just said. We're really not cutting. Wait, not. We're going to, pretend cut some stuff.
If you cut something, it takes $1 off your budget, and then you add $3 to the other side of your budget. That's not a cut. It's a cut to one part of your budget. I think it's just a mirage. I think they just want the words to be in the headlines. Cut $168 billion. It makes Elon Musk look good, and then Trump can say, "Oh, but I'm not going to cut." Well, that makes him look good for the big spenders. I think they just need enough. Elon Musk and Trump, ever since the election, they've been bouncing off each other for headlines. It's like they have to have this love-hate. It really is wrestling. It really is, and whatever sells to the audience, that's what they will do. And so the breakup of Trump and Elon Musk had to happen so that people still believe the garbage that they're shoveling, Joe.
Well, here's what I believe. Gold and silver are going to end up being the biggest winners of all this spending. 800-951-0592. Final segment. 800-951-0592. Patriot Radio News Hour wrapping up this Tuesday. $20 gold pieces, $34.50. Liberty Saints, I don't care. You get to call it at 800-951-0592. We had gold rallying again today as more trouble in the bond market. You're not going to hear about it. Right. All eyes on the wrestling show, Donald and Elon. All eyes on the big, beautiful bill. Pay no attention to the Treasury markets. And by the way, I think Jay Powell just said it. Rate cuts are coming, guys. Everybody better buckle up because gold and silver are on the launch pad. 800-951-0592. And I'll be honest with you. You better figure out a way. To be able to supplement your income because you are going to need it. Because that's what's coming. You can do it with gold and silver. We think you can do it with Texas coin, right? Getting in on something, maybe the redo of Bitcoin. We'll see what happens. But Jason, look at what Texas did yesterday. They just legalized gold and silver again, right? All of these things are coming. Why? Because they already know the end of fiat money as we know it is here. It's here. We'll see. And again, let's not forget, we got BRICS next week. It's going to be really interesting to see what they have to say.
Let's see what happens. Yeah, we're coming into this holiday weekend. You never know what they're going to try to sneak past people. And I don't know. I get the feeling something in the Middle East will probably blow up right about the same time, so that when they sneak something past, there's the holiday and there's something blowing up, right, Joe? So when it comes out Monday and things are looking bad, they'll just blame. Don't blame the money monsters, the money controllers, right, Joe? That are going to just keep sinking the value of your hard-earned daily grind, right, Joe? That's what they really do. It's about sucking the blood, sweat, and tears out of the average American. It's all on our shoulders, isn't it?
Well, and again, remember their plan. They just want to do it a little bit at a time, right? And when they get it wrong, that little bit becomes a lot of bit, right? And that's kind of what we had just seen. And now, essentially, we are just going to, as we normally do, when things get hard, we're incapable of making the hard decision. So what do? Let's just keep spending. Let's just keep doing it. And this is why the money will end. This is why digital currencies are coming. A digital renminbi, a digital dollar. Like I said, we don't know, but you better figure out the crypto space really quickly. We can help you do that. 800-951-0592. Jason and I, guess what? We're coming right back with the Half Empty Cup. Stay with us.